The Tomorrowverse and its ongoing trilogy brought a lot of characters into the light for newer DC fans, but the one who got the most attention and is currently the most talked about has to be the Anti-Monitor himself. The cosmic villain who started off the antimatter wave that destroyed universes it came in touch with is definitely a huge threat to our heroes. But who is this man? Where does he come from? In this video, we'll try to answer these questions, so let's get to it. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Backstory of AntiMonitor. How did AntiMonitor come into existence? A long time ago, there was a certain planet. The inhabitants of this planet were peaceful. They had vast mental abilities, and ambition was a force that drove them to be better. This planet was known as Oa. They were the ones who created the Guardians of the Universe and Green Lantern Corps for peacekeeping. This world was advanced in every field you could think of. Science, technology, agriculture, everything. Overall, the people on this planet were satisfied. But that did not mean everyone shared the same sentiment. There was a scientist on the planet who was obsessed with the creation of the universe. This scientist, Krona, was driven by ambition. He was willing to go to any length possible to find the answers to the questions that had plagued him for so long. He worked extremely hard to create a machine that would help him travel back in time and witness the creation of the universe. The process was taxing, and the stigma surrounding the experiment was even more taxing. An Owen legend stated that great devastation would be caused if the secret of creation was uncovered, and so all his dear friends and colleagues tried to stop Krona, but Krona was not willing to listen. His machine finally worked, and sure enough, the screen of the machine sputtered to life as pixels formed the image he craved. A giant luminous hand held the universe in it, cradling it gently. This was the secret that Krona wanted to know. But this action had grievous consequences. Krona's experiment was an anomaly in the cosmic creation, and instead of the universe being a singular entity, there were several universes that existed in parallel, giving rise to the multiverse that we know. But this was not the only problem that happened here. Just like Oa was the central planet of the multiverse, which was made of positive matter, its sister planet, Quard, ended up becoming the center of a singular antimatter universe. While the positive matter multiverse was a place where good prevailed over the forces of evil, the antimatter universe was the exact opposite. Here, evil was the predominant force. Magic did not exist in this universe, and the glorification of evil led to its inhabitants becoming a threat to the multiverse. Krona was punished for his crime, and he was banished into outer space to live out his days in an energy form. But banishing Krona did not solve the issue at hand. The Owens were plagued with the new trouble at hand, the Antimatter Universe. The creation of this universe led to the people in Oa ending up in a brutal civil war. Some of the people wanted to banish the Antimatter Universe and destroy it altogether, while the rest did not feel there was any need to. Oh, but how wrong they would turn out to be. On the lifeless moon of Quard, the energies of the Antimatter Universe pooled, and a creature of great evil was born. This was the Anti-Monitor. He was the personification of the great malevolent energies that were in excess in this universe. His birth tipped the cosmic balance, and to regain that, the Monitor was born on one of Oa's moons. The Anti-Monitor had one goal. He wanted to be all-powerful. With the evil energy lying around him in the Antimatter Universe, achieving that status was not that difficult. He fed off the energy and, using sheer force, took over Quard. Once he had taken over the planet, he started forming his own troops, preparing for the battles that he had yet to wage. He gave these people the ability to throw lightning bolts, and thus these were known as the Thunderers. When some of the Thunderers proved their loyalty to him, over time, Anti-Monitor gave them a promotion and turned them into his trusted and infamous Shadows. Shadows were the silent assassins of the Anti-Monitor, whom he sent wherever he wanted to attack the cosmic tuning forks present on several Earths throughout the multiverse during the Crisis on Infinite Earth saga. Now, with Quard under his control and the troops ready, Anti-Monitor was ready to move. But that's when he sensed something. Rather, he sensed someone. Almost by some sort of cosmic awareness, he was able to sense the presence of Monitor, who had been living on the Owen moon. Learning about the universe's secret, realizing there was an opponent who might be able to take him down, the Anti-Monitor did not hesitate and launched an attack. The Monitor was prepared for it. In fact, he was born ready. The fight between them lasted for 1,000,000 years. Neither of them showed signs of backing down, but eventually, one simultaneous attack rendered both of them unconscious, and they were left in that state for the next 9 billion years to come. The Anti-Monitor probably would have stayed this way if Pariah had not made the antimatter cube to witness the creation of the universe. History repeated itself, and instead of new multiverses being formed, this experiment woke up the Anti-Monitor, and he was hungry for destruction. Thank you for nothing, Pariah.
Let's do this.
Who Who is Mobius? AntiMonitor? How was Mobius created? In the DC universe, the AntiMonitor I just told you about is not the only one. There's actually another version of the AntiMonitor. Let me tell you about him, and then I can explain the lore between the two. Now, Krona managed to witness the birth of the universe, where a giant hand created the universe and whatnot. But that raises a question. Whose hand was it? Well, about that. The multiverse is not actually the biggest thing in existence. There's something known as the Omniverse, the place beyond all places. This is a collection of every multiverse, universe, and dimension, including ours. Everything that ever came to exist is part of this Omniverse. The Omniverse is infinite. Its potential is limitless. There's a ruler of this Omniverse, because why wouldn't there be one? And that ruler is the source of all things. The source is an aspect of the presence, and the partner of Mother Entity. This source acts as, well, the source from which limitless energy flows out, and it's that energy from which all life forms began. The source had children, who we know as the Hands. The Hands were cosmic entities created by the source to govern and create the universes in the infinite multiverses effectively. Each hand would be given a multiverse to form, and each of them would give life to a new life form, and eventually allow their energies to return back to the source. One of the Hands was Perpetua. She was a celestial being who existed in the 6th dimension, the so-called multiversal control room, which was the final plane of existence in the multiverse. The plane existed beyond the constraints of time, and is pretty unfathomable by the likes of us. Now, like all the other members of the Hand, Perpetua too was tasked with creating a multiverse of her own. She created her 3 children, Mar-Novu, Alpheus, and Mobius, who were brothers to each other. The multiverse that she created had 3 main realms. A positive matter realm would bring a level of permanence to the multiverse as it was constant. A dark matter realm that would bring the potential necessary for the growth of the multiverse. And lastly, the antimatter realm, which would corrode and destroy everything that was created to bring balance. She tasked each of her children with each realm, with Mobius getting the antimatter realm, Alpheus getting the dark matter realm, and Mar-Novu getting the positive matter realm. Mobius personally had to make sure that while his brother Alpheus created worlds and Mar-Novu protected the same, the light of these creations never breached the greater Omniverse. After the creation of the realms, and giving birth to the new gods to protect and expand the new realms, Perpetua was supposed to go back to the source, and give her energy back to him. However, Perpetua did not wish for this fate. She instead refused to go back, and tried to harness the crisis energy to prevent her fate. Using the crisis energy, she was able to form a line of killers known as the Apex Predators. Mar-Novu, who was tasked with protecting the realms, had figured something was wrong, and had sensed the cosmic judgment being sent their way for their mother. When talking it out with his mother, which resulted in him being attacked by her creations, Mar-Novu retreated and decided to approach his brothers. After 2,000 years of planning, the 3 brothers met at the edge of the universe, where they asked for the judges of the source to report the crimes of Perpetua. Perpetua learned about that, and she attacked her children. The brothers merged together to form the Ultramonitor, and fought with their mother, but she proved to be far too powerful. Right then, the source was forced to show up and defeat Perpetua. A wall was created out of the source, and she was trapped inside it. This wall, while keeping Perpetua away, also made Mobius's domain obsolete. This angered Mobius, and all his rage was directed at Mar-Novu, and he vowed to kill his brother, even if eons passed. With that vow, the 3 brothers went their separate ways, and all focused on building their realms. Krona, when he used this machine, managed to view this exact moment. This led to the multiverse splintering off into several universes. Thanks to this, Mobius was reborn on the moon of Quard. Once he was reborn, Perpetua started corrupting his mind, whispering things to him, hoping she could free herself from the wall with his help. But all that happened was he became the devastating threat that we know him as. As fans, one might feel like Mobius and the AntiMonitor on Quard share 2 very different levels of power. While Mobius was created by Perpetua, the AntiMonitor of Quard was born right out of the source, which makes him far more powerful than his 6th dimension counterpart. But that does not take away from the fact that whether it is the AntiMonitor or Mobius, this man is definitely one of the top 5 villains who threaten the DC universe. Now that we know who he is, let's take a look at his powers and understand why this guy is as big of a threat as he says he is. What does he look like? How does his armor work? The way the AntiMonitor looks is nightmare-inducing. While the Monitor, the more positive counterpart, has an almost human-like appearance, the AntiMonitor does not. He looks like a monster. With his huge armor, he looks like a gigantic freakazoid that will definitely annihilate you. This armor is called the Life Shell by the AntiMonitor himself. When Supergirl managed to destroy the Life Shell, we got a sneak peek at who he was underneath it, and it was scary to say the least. He looked like a human. Well, a humanish form that was unstable. He was always surrounded by an aura of radiating energy. The serpentine tendrils of energy that leaked out of him are very reminiscent of falling water when the vessel it was contained in fails. The AntiMonitor does not really have a face. Not like the ones you and I have. When Firestorm destroys his helmet, we catch a glimpse of it. His face has no features except his eyes and mouth. His eye sockets are usually empty, but sometimes they glow luminously, and his mouth is wrinkled and wide. One usually looks at it and think of it as a mass of teeth, but really it's a featureless visage, one that strikes terror in the hearts of even the bravest among us. With a face like that and a body that leaks energy like his, it's no wonder that AntiMonitor is often seen with his armor. But there's a bit more to that armor than just hiding his terrifying features. His armor acts as a receiver of energy. Whenever the antimatter wave crashes into the positive matter universe, it destroys everything in its path. As we know, everything is made out of energy, and energy can never be destroyed. So where does the energy from this mass destruction go? Yes, if you're thinking that the armor sucks it off and puts it into the AntiMonitor's body, then you're absolutely right. 100 points to Gryffindor. The armor is what drives the AntiMonitor and makes him the biggest threat to our heroes on Earth. So that means that if the armor is destroyed, he won't survive, right? That's an absolute yes. That's why when Supergirl went up against the AntiMonitor and destroyed his armor, the AntiMonitor confessed that she had almost killed him. Any breach in his armor would cause his life force to start leaking out, which is bad news for him. However, this armor is not that easy to destroy, and Kara literally died to land a critical hit, so you get why he's such a huge threat. He consumes universes to increase his power. Thanos was quite the force, but his population control is nowhere near the absolute and utter devastation that AntiMonitor has left in his wake. The AntiMonitor is a force to be reckoned with. Hailing from the evil incarnate universe known as the Antimatter Universe, this guy is unstoppable. He brings absolute brutality wherever he goes, and he's not even shy about it. His favorite move, the Antimatter Wave, is an all-devouring force of energy that destroys and corrodes anything in its path. The universes that get eaten up and destroyed by the Antimatter Wave feed the AntiMonitor. So in a way, this absolute unit of a villain eats universes for breakfast before he fights our heroes. There's no known number of how many universes the AntiMonitor has destroyed, but if one had to guess, the number would rack up in thousands, if not more. He has the biggest kill count of all the villains, something which James A. Janice would have a blast counting if he were to do a kill count on the AntiMonitor's career. His unique physiology and his hunger for the universes and the energies they hold make him just as interesting as it makes him scary.
Behold the definition of true power.
Is he more powerful than Monitor? This is a question that has probably plagued us all. Is the AntiMonitor stronger than the Monitor? Well, the answer is a bit more complicated than a simple yes or no. When we first learn about the origin of AntiMonitor and Monitor in the comic book issue 7 of the Crisis on Infinite Earths, we learn that these two people had fought for quite a while, without either of them being able to overpower the other. And when you go further back in time, back in the 6th Dimension story arc with Mobius, even then, Marnovu and Mobius were equal in power. But now, it seems like the AntiMonitor is more powerful than the Monitor. So what happened? The answer to this question is purely subjective, and everyone is free to make their own interpretations. But this is what we can speculate from the events that we've seen unfold so far. When Marnovu and Mobius were created by Perpetua, they were equal in power. But when they were reborn in Oa and Quartz moons respectively, things became a bit different. There was one antimatter universe, while there was a positive matter multiverse. Thanks to the one antimatter universe, AntiMonitor was able to power up far more easily, as when the positive matter universe split into infinite multiverses, each universe became a pale reflection of the original, and the power of the positive matter was divided infinitely. While the AntiMonitor got the power of the antimatter universe and all the positive matter universes he destroyed, the Monitor did not do any such thing. So in a way, the AntiMonitor started depleting the Monitor's powers, making him far stronger than his counterpart. If the Earths had all unified and become one again, the Monitor would have gained back his true power, and that fight would have been a sight to watch. However, as we know, the Monitor was killed before the Earths were united, so we were robbed of the best boss fight of the century. However, as Oliver Queen noted in the Arrowverse, no hero can defeat the universe-consuming monster by themselves. Sure, the AntiMonitor can be overpowered, which led to Marnovu trapping him away in the chambers, but defeating him by himself is not something that even the Monitor could achieve. He can change his physical form. The AntiMonitor is the embodiment of the anti-life equation. He's a celestial being, and one of the most powerful beings at that. Being a celestial entity comes with a lot of perks. Along with invulnerability, superhuman strength, and everything else, it comes with size alteration. Now, you might be wondering why I'm so hyper-focused on his size. Usually, size doesn't matter, but AntiMonitor is different. In this case, it does matter. The AntiMonitor loves siphoning the energy from the gobbled-up universes, and uses it against his enemies. Sure, his armor helps with this accumulation, but where does he store the energy? His body, of course. Imagine if you're a DC hero and you're facing off against the AntiMonitor, and he shows up looking like at least 5 Burj Khalifas stacked on top of each other. You for sure would know that there's no way you would win in this fight, because if he's that massive in size, he surely has the same massive amount of energy. Not only does his size alteration make him intimidating to face off against, but it also gives the heroes, and us the fans, a sneak peek at the devastating fight that is about to come, and I think that's pretty nifty. He can shoot Antimatter Blasts from his hands. How powerful are his Antimatter Blasts? Perpetua created her boy Mobius to take care of the antimatter realm. So in a way, she gave Mobius the powers that were needed to control and manipulate the realm, which was strictly made up of a concept that was destructive and colloidal in nature. Otherwise, how would he manage his own realm, right? The fact that he can control the antimatter is what makes him such a huge threat. Because, as you can guess, his favorite go-to move in fights is related to antimatter. The AntiMonitor can fire antimatter beams from his hands. While these might look like a pretty standard energy beam, thanks to these being antimatter coated, they're far more dangerous than one could have guessed. These antimatter beams can easily disintegrate any matter into the basic molecules and disintegrate them, almost making it seem like they never existed. How perfectly horrible is that? With one antimatter blast, the AntiMonitor was able to vaporize not one, not two, but 3 Green Lanterns. Unless the heroes of the DC universe figure out a way to protect themselves against this all-devouring antimatter energy, the AntiMonitor will always reign supreme. He can travel to any universe he wants. As I previously mentioned, being a celestial being comes with a lot of perks. Other than his size alteration, there's another power that the AntiMonitor wields pretty casually, even though there's nothing casual about his power. Mobius hails from the 6th dimension, a realm beyond time. The Antimatter Universe itself exists at the same time as the positive matter multiverse, but on a different space level. So thanks to both of these things, for the AntiMonitor, traveling through space is like a daily job of sorts. Unlike us, he's not bound by the constraints of time and space. He can move freely to wherever he wants, whenever he wants. Not only can he do interstellar travel in moments, leaving the antimatter universe with a blast, but he can also bring things from the positive matter universe into the antimatter universe. He literally took Earth from the positive matter universe to the antimatter universe simply because he could. Where he's from and when he ventures are all beyond our comprehension, guys. And that is what makes AntiMonitor so scary, because he can just pop out of literally nowhere. He can make you Superman. As if all things I said about him were not scary enough, there's another handy-dandy trick that the AntiMonitor has up his sleeves, which is pretty underrated, but terrifying. The AntiMonitor can manipulate energy. That much is pretty clear. He's usually seen using the energy for his own sake, but he does have the ability to grant others powers. In the Arrowverse, the AntiMonitor gave Harrison Nash Wells power to teleport and travel through dimensions, which in turn gave us Pariah. If the AntiMonitor wanted, just by using this power, he would become an unstoppable force. He could simply pick all the bad guys from all the Earths, give all of them bits of his powers, and make them more powerful than they ever were. And boom! Now the AntiMonitor is unstoppable, even if he did not want to go through all the trouble of hiring evil people and giving them the powers. All the AntiMonitor has to do is pick a superhero and give them way more power than they can handle, and again, boom! The superhero has self-combusted. Thankfully, the AntiMonitor does not use his powers in any of the ways I've mentioned, so our heroes have a fighting chance after all. However, for future conflicts with the AntiMonitor, using this underrated power would certainly make things interesting. How did Mobius survive Darkseid's devastating Omega Beams? In the Justice League issues 43 and 44, the Darkseid War Saga, we get to see quite the boss fight. Darkseid has been one of the most terrifying villains in the DC universe. Seeing him go against the AntiMonitor was a rather unexpected treat. The fight was brutal, and the panels did it justice. In this issue, we learned that the fight between Darkseid and the AntiMonitor has been brewing for a while. Darkseid's daughter Grail played a crucial role in starting this fight, ever since she left her father's side. She claimed that she was just following what the Amazons had set out to do, killing Darkseid, but the actions she committed to attain that were far scarier. The fight took place on planet Quard, AntiMonitor's home planet. After killing more than 5 billion people and devouring the energy, the AntiMonitor was ready for the beatdown with Darkseid. The fight was cathartic as we watched the two most prominent villains of the DC universe duke it out. Darkseid unleashed his Omega Beams on the AntiMonitor, but as we know, the AntiMonitor can pretty much absorb every type of energy, thanks to his close links with the antimatter and anti-life equation. It did not do nearly as much damage as Darkseid had hoped for. The fight caused colossal damage, but the fighters couldn't care less. They were out for blood. It was a fight to the death, and sure enough, the fight ended when Darkseid fell, much to the shock and horror of the heroes. Can he bleed? After the death of Darkseid, things were pretty bad for the Justice League. Mobius was out and about destroying everything he could see, but that was not something that the heroes could sit back and watch. So to get some more help in taking down the villain, the heroes joined hands with the Crime Syndicate of Earth 3, whose Earth was destroyed by the AntiMonitor at one point. The Crime Syndicate were more than happy to beat down the AntiMonitor, for their thirst for revenge outlived their urge to survive. Lex Luthor gave up his stash of kryptonite so that Ultraman, the evil antithesis of Superman, could eat it and get powered up. Once the power-up was complete, Grid, who was inhabiting Cyborg's body, managed to track down Mobius. So the heroes and the villains joined hands together to take down this devastating enemy. But the fight didn't go quite as planned. Ultraman attacked the Anti-Monitor the moment he found the latter distracted. Although the first attack was launched by both Superman and Ultraman together, Ultraman pushed the Man of Steel away so that he could get the glorifying revenge all by himself. He rained punches on the Anti-Monitor, back to back, as blood spurted out of the latter's broken nose. However, the moment Ultraman was distracted by his monologue, the Anti-Monitor gained the upper hand in the fight. Ultraman was pushed down to the ground as the Anti-Monitor towered over him. Using his antimatter beams, the Anti-Monitor siphoned the life and energy out of Ultraman, making the hot-headed villain disappear into thin air. So, while Ultraman managed to draw blood from the villain, the consequence of that was far more painful than he had imagined. How powerful is Mobius Chair? In the Darkseid War Saga, we see Batman sitting on Mobius' chair and becoming almost godlike, so obviously having Mobius sit on his chair was a big no-no, which the heroes did their best to prevent. But why is this chair so important? Well, the Mobius Chair was a technological marvel. As the name suggests, this was created by the Anti-Monitor himself. Anyone who sits on this chair becomes omniscient, as the chair has a database with all the information about new gods and everything that can help the owner understand the universe better. The owner of the chair would gain cosmic awareness, along with precognition and retrocognition, which makes creating or avoiding devastating wars extremely easy. The chair also helps in teleportation, and has its own reservoir of energy that can be used to project energy. While using the chair, it is extremely difficult to kill the user, because no matter the place, the chair would adapt to the region and ensure the survival of the user. As the chair itself is such a powerful wonder, it also has sentience. The Mobius Chair chooses who is worthy of using it, and if someone unworthy forcibly takes it, the chair kills them with its overwhelming power. Does he have resurrection ability? Is he immortal? The Anti-Monitor has been around since the dawn of time. He's been around for 20 billion years, and he's not aged at all. His life force is directly linked with the Antimatter Universe, as we have discussed. As long as the Antimatter Universe exists, the Anti-Monitor will remain, creeping around until he is powerful enough to strike back again. The only thing that the heroes can do to prevent his revival is to make sure his energy pool always remains drained. But given that there is a multiverse, that will never happen, because someone, somewhere, will always fail to defeat him, fail to capture him, and he will gain power as he devours that universe, and he will for sure return again. He's not immortal, but his existence is beyond mortal terms. So all things considered, from a technical standpoint, he's pretty much immortal. Marvelous verdict. The Anti-Monitor, despite being a villain, was never created to cause destruction. He was created to do good things, but the lust for power ironically overpowered him, and now he is a stupendous threat to everyone in the DC universe. Unlike Uncle Ben, the Anti-Monitor would eventually return, much to the horror of all the superheroes, but we as fans will be ready for his return. After all, who doesn't love watching our favorite heroes defeat a daunting juggernaut like the Anti-Monitor? And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone!